Hello everyone, I'm Margaux Salcedo from the Social Communications Ministry, specifically the Web Ministry. And actually, I have also been with the Ministry of Music for 16 years now. This week, today, I have the joy of sharing this Sunday's mustard seed inspiration, which is lifted from Luke chapter 1, verses 26 to 38. It is the story of the Annunciation. And it is also the last Sunday of Advent, so we reflect on acceptance and peace. Today's gospel is something that we're all familiar with. The angel Gabriel visited the Blessed Virgin Mary and broke the news to her that she is with child. I remember a homily where it was clarified that this was not an apparition, but an actual visit. The angel Gabriel really went before Mother Mary. She was not just seeing things. So I guess this rules out the idea that Mary started to see things out of stress or trauma. And we have to remember that the angel later also appeared to Joseph as well, although in a dream. But that's not what struck me the most. What struck me the most were the words of Mother Mary in verse 38. Mary said, "Let it happen to me as you have said." That's the famous line, "Be it done unto me according to your word." It struck me that this is similar to the words in the Lord's Prayer, taught to us by Christ, "Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." Which made me realize that maybe, just like many of us, it was his mother who taught Jesus how to pray. So go hug your mother today and tell her, "Thanks, Mom, for teaching me to pray." Which brings me to my own delightful mother, in her own way, full of grace, Carmelita Baby Salcedo. And like many of you mothers in St. Alfonso's, impeccable when not being intolerable. I remember being very, very sick in 4th or 5th grade and telling my mom that I was so afraid to die. And she said, "The scariest thing is not death. What is scarier is to never see the face of God." I don't know why we had that conversation, but it stuck. And this message from my own mother comes back to me now as I read the story on the Blessed Virgin because of the similarity in perspective and wisdom to put God above all else, just like Mother Mary did. But reading this passage again today, I realize I now have a different perspective on the characterization of Mother Mary. Because growing up in a Catholic school, as many of you also did, we were made to see this story, Mary saying yes, as an example of obedience. She was obedient to God and simply submitted to her fate. She was meek and humble, and that is why she said yes. But reading the verse again, I think it was more than obedience. The news that she received would have been very traumatic and overwhelming for a woman of any age, from 8 to 81, or whether you were a woman in Mary's time or today. For her to receive that news at such a young age, it would certainly have been traumatic and frightening, not to mention unfathomable and incomprehensible. In her time, the situation she was placed in, aside from the humiliation that she would have had to bear, put her own life in danger, as she could have been stoned to death. And who would believe her if she argued that she was visited by an angel? But even in her tender age, Mary stood up for her faith. So she was not just obedient, she was incredibly courageous. Sure, she exhibited humility in submitting to God's wisdom to accept something that was beyond human understanding. But she also showed incredible courage in journeying into the unknown, in taking this life path that risked her reputation, her future, and her life. And this reminds me of this year's CBCP theme, which is the year of MISSIO ad GENTES, or the year of mission to the nations. Because in this story, as I read it now, it becomes clear that Mary's acceptance wasn't just in submission, but it was in mission. Although I do remember having a conversation with Monsignor Matt, wherein I said, "Monsi, remember that we are here for mission, not consummation. So I realize now that there are two kinds of acceptance. There is an acceptance without faith, where you say yes, either in obedience, surrender, or coercion, and just hopelessly and helplessly say yes, and that is heavy and painful and heartbreaking because it is against your will. Then there is Mary's kind of acceptance, where you say, yes, let's do this, let's go on this adventure, even if it sounds crazy, even if I have no idea what's happening, because I trust you, God, and I know that you have a better view of what lies ahead. In this kind of acceptance, with Mary's kind of acceptance, the submission is no longer against your will because you take the will of the Lord and make it your own. So while you are initially perplexed, ultimately there is joy. In this kind of acceptance, you are not only obeying, you are fulfilling. And there is joy because there is a sense of fulfillment. And if you have ever experienced a sense of fulfillment, you know that it's so fun. Your heart, your spirit, down to your toes are so full, bursting with energy, bursting with joy. You are energized for your mission. And I think that is grace. To be full of grace like Mary, to be filled with the Spirit of the Lord. And when you are filled with the Spirit, you are filled with peace, an inner peace that is so strong, all your anxieties go away. I think that is how the Blessed Virgin dealt with her surprise pregnancy, dealt with the news. Full of grace, she was unaffected by the silly concerns of the world. Nothing could disturb her inner peace because she had lifted her heart to the Lord. I think that is why we begin the Holy Mass with this greeting. The Lord be with you, and also with you, and with your spirit. Lift up your hearts. We lift them up to the Lord. The Lord be with you. That is for grace. Lift up your hearts. That is for peace. And with this inner peace, we become fearless and equipped with courage to fulfill our mission. But it all begins with acceptance. It starts with you saying yes. But the yes cannot be a hesitant yes. The yes must be a full yes, a grateful yes. You accept with all your heart, your soul, your mind. When you give your yes, you must give your all. You cannot be kuripot. You commit, and you commit fully. You consecrate yourself to the purpose, to the mission, to the Lord. You offer yourself. As the lyric goes, Lord, I offer my life to you. Everything I've been through, use it for your glory. And this is where the magic happens. In accepting, you're at the same time offering. And as you offer yourself, you receive grace. As you give, you receive. And more. Because suddenly, Christ is no longer just beside you. He is no longer just someone you talk to, but He is within you. And suddenly, what was black and white is now in full color. What was bland is now full of flavor. Because you are now the salt of the earth. Hindi na matabang, may lasa na. You are now the light of the world. And you will let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And I think you in the St. Alphonsus community know this and feel it. I am so proud to be part of the St. Alphonsus family because truly this light is so evident, even beaming in so many of you, especially those who have been tapped by Monsignor Matt or who have voluntarily joined the different ministries. And really, that is what we will be celebrating in a few days. The gift of Christ, the gift of life. That is why, just like the angel Gabriel said, we must rejoice. Rejoice. Life today is so uncertain because of this pandemic. We don't know how our businesses will be, how our health will be, how our life will be tomorrow. But we do know that we can take inspiration from the young, innocent Mary who listened to the angel, who said, "Be not afraid," who in spite of the terrifying journey she had ahead of her, the challenge of explaining her predicament to the world, and at the same time, the responsibility of birthing and raising the child of God, said this prayer: "My soul glorifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior." Mother Mary in today's gospel shows us that through faith, we find courage. In accepting the will of the Lord and in giving ourselves, we find grace. And filled with grace, we rejoice. We rejoice in the coming of the Lord and celebrate a truly meaningful, truly merry Christmas.